Ladies and gentlemen, dear members of the Alliance for the Social Market Economy, dear friends, it's my profound honor to celebrate a truly remarkable scholar, a tireless advocate for liberty and a voice of wisdom in our modern age, Professor Deirdre McCloskey. Deirdre McCloskey's work spans an extraordinary range of fields: economics, history, rhetorics, literature, and philosophy. Yet it is not simply the breadth of her scholarship that makes her so deserving of this recognition today. It is the depth of her commitment to a world where ethics and liberty are not just academic concepts, but guiding principles for a flourishing society. At the heart of Deirdre's intellectual journey is a powerful and unwavering belief in the dignity of the individual. In her seminal work on bourgeois virtues, she challenges us to rethink capitalism, not as a cold, calculated mechanism, but as a moral framework where virtues like prudence, justice, courage, and love are essential to both personal success and societal well-being. She argues that capitalism, when embodies these virtues, is a force for good, fostering not just wealth but also a more just and humane world. The reason the Alliance for the Social Market Economy is awarding Deirdre the Alexander Rüstow Medal today is that was also the vision of the social market economy historically: to have a functioning and humane economic order. Its stated goals was decidedly not to aim for maximizing welfare or prosperity, but to be humanistic in its outlook. And that continues to be its focus in our contemporary time. Deirdre also has been a passionate advocate for the principles of liberty, for the ability of individuals to pursue their own paths, to innovate and to create. She reminds us that liberty and ethics are not opposing forces, rather they are intertwined, each reinforcing the other in the pursuit of a society that respects the rights and aspirations of all its members. Indeed, her personal journey has added a profound dimension to her understanding of justice and human dignity. She has shown us that the struggle for liberty is also deeply personal, rooted in the right of every individual to live authentically and without fear. Today, as we honor Deirdre McCloskey, we celebrate not just her academic achievements, but also her moral clarity and her unwavering dedication to the ideals of a free and just society. Her work challenges us to see beyond the narrow confines of economics and politics and to embrace a vision of human life that is rich in ethics, guided by virtues, and committed to the dignity and liberty of every person. And so I'm pleased, Deirdre, to bestow the award upon you, a scholar, a thinker, a champion of ethics and liberty, but for me personally, even more important, a friend. Congratulations, Deirdre.
Thank you so much, dear.
And now allow me to read the text of the award document.
Yes, shall I stand?
Yeah, so perhaps stand up. Try to open this.
Here you are.
In recognition of her efforts to advance a free and prosperous economic order dedicated to the well-being of all, we honor Professor Deirdre Nansen McCloskey by awarding her the Alexander Rüstow Award. Professor McCloskey's commitment to open societies, market economies, and civic emancipation makes her a worthy recipient of this prize. Through her many works, she has valiantly contributed to the defense of liberalism. Her focus on humanomics and the pivotal role that the humanities must play in developing an ethical economic science places her in line with the traditional advocacy of the social market economy. Tübingen, September the 3rd, 2024. So congratulations, Deirdre.
Thank you so much, dear. I am so pleased. I only learned about the social market economy in its German form from you, indeed. And I see it as part of the movement that at the Cato Institute we advocate for world freedom, for respect for individuals and families, and I'm thrilled. Thank you very much.
We're so happy to have you as an awardee. So that is the medal. So it's Alexander Rüstow, and on the opposite side your name is put in. So I hope you like that one.
Wonderful. It's so wonderful. Thank you so much.
Perfect. So before Deirdre has a chance to say a few more words, we have a special message from an old friend of you who would like to say some words. We have a brief video we would like to show for that.
Certainly.
So have a
seat.
you have a seat, and then we try to put it on.
Hi, Deirdre. It's Steve. How are you? Greetings, Niels, Mark, other friends and colleagues at the Alliance for Social Market Economy and Cato Institute. I wish I could join you all in person today. Unfortunately, I need to be in Chicago for teaching and for a couple of other things. Deirdre, such an honor and pleasure to contribute today to this ceremony awarding you the Alexander Rüstow Plakette. Congratulations, you are most worthy of this award for your contributions, as they say, to liberalism and to the pivotal role that you see in the humanities for making economics a more ethical science. I'd like to focus a little bit on the latter in the few minutes allotted to me. To those of you who don't know, I'm Steve Ziliak, professor of economics and social justice studies at Roosevelt University in Chicago. Deirdre and I have worked together on 4 books and have completed more than 24 research articles together. We're probably best known for our book, The Cult of Statistical Significance, How the Standard Error Costs Us Jobs, Justice, and Lives, a book that in methodology, I think, tries to fulfill some of the ideas and some of the principles that Deirdre has been pushing against the grain of mainstream economics for many, many years. As Deirdre says, mainstream economics continues to be largely dominated by blackboard economics, boys playing in the sandbox existence theorems from game theory and indeed dynamic macro, the social planner model, statistical significance, all of it backed by, or most of it rather, still backed by a kind of mindless application of max U, maximizing utility without really thinking about the ethics or the context or actual behavior of people in the real economy. For folks who don't know Deirdre's work so well, what can one say in a short period of time that would help one appreciate the ways in which she has leaned against the profession and try to humanize ourselves and her colleagues, and at the same time make progress scientifically in economics? I think one point that needs to be made is that Deirdre has always asked us to think historically. Now, when I started graduate school, with Deirdre at University of Iowa in 1991, economic history had pretty much been pushed out of the graduate curriculum in the leading schools of the United States. You might find it from time to time in some spots, such as Iowa, where Deirdre was, but the truth is there was no graduate economic history course offered because the faculty wouldn't allow it, even though they had the eminent Professor McCloskey to teach such courses. So my education in economic history with Deirdre occurred at the Sunday seminar, which occurred at her house, not on campus. Thinking historically does not just begin with the bourgeois trilogy, bourgeois virtues, bourgeois dignity, bourgeois equality. Deirdre has been trying to bring a historical perspective on both real-world economies and on economic theory and history of ideas her whole career. This is the second edition of the Applied Theory of Price. I was in 1982 first introduced to Deirdre in the first edition of the Applied Theory of Price in a course taught by Roy Gardner, who, as some of you know, it's the late Roy Gardner. Roy was the long-term co-author of Eleanor Ostrom in the Theory and Practice of the Commons, Roy being primarily a microeconomist and game theorist. Roy loved this book, and one of the reasons is because it's applied theory of price. It's about trying to explain the real world. To get a sense of Deirdre's historical mind and how serious she is, on page 12, chapter 1, called the budget line, the student is invited in problem number 6 to compare prices found in column 1 with prices found in column 2. Be sure to express the prices in the correct unit, she says. The prices are historically accurate. And she says to the student that you might find it interesting to reflect on what the relative prices would be today. And then you turn to the data table, which is prices in England in the 1400s. And you can see that in the first column, line A, the entry is bread, and the price of bread is 1/2 pence per 2-pound loaf. Entry B is wine, price 1.5 pence per quart. Entry F is 1 acre of good plowing land for a year, 3 pence. And this is to be compared to entries in the second column, such as bricklayer, 6 pence per day, agricultural worker, 300 pence per year. Now, remember, make sure you express your units correctly and reflect upon the relative prices of each of these services and goods in today's compared to 1400s England. Well, that's just one little example. As a great friend of mine likes to put it, if my granny had wheels, she would be a tram. Well, Deirdre asks us to reach back. Always think historically. You think that the welfare state issues that we're having are new? No, they're not new. In fact, as I show in my dissertation with Deirdre's supervision, most of the issues, if not all of the issues we are facing today in debates about public welfare for poor people are old. They're super old. They go back to the Elizabethan Poor Law of 1601 in most cases. Deirdre also asks us to reach across. So one way in which we become more human as economists is to speak to other people who have not been trained in Samuelsonian economics and supply and demand, for example. In The Rhetoric of the Human Sciences, a book which was attached to Deirdre's classic, The Rhetoric of Economics. Deirdre and colleagues from Iowa are engaging philosophers such as Richard Rorty. They're engaging feminist economists such as Nancy Folbray and Julie Nelson. They're engaging other economists too tragically left outside of the mainstream, such as the late Albert Hirschman. And what we see in the reaching across Deirdre compared to the reaching back Deirdre is that Deirdre sees the economic conversation as being tightly connected to the human conversation. But in order for us to, let's say, have something to say to a novelist or a poet, a historian even, maybe the economist better read some poetry, if not try to write some, listen to music, study musicology a little bit maybe. Deirdre, like her teacher in graduate school, Alexander Gershenkron, believes that knowledge is one thing, and I do too. Knowledge, if you're going to claim to know something, you have to know all the different ways of knowing it, or you do your best anyway. Not just in statistics or in mathematical models, but in history and poetry, novels, music, in engineering, physics, chemistry. Who's been studying these things and what can we learn from them? Now, Deirdre's reaching across to different disciplines and so on was not very well received by our colleagues who are still playing in the sandbox, our colleagues who are more or less obsessed with their mechanical methods. I would say that a third very crucial aspect of the Deirdre corpus, the Deirdre project, which I think should be said, something that should be added to thinking historically, that is reaching back, thinking synthetically and in across the disciplines, reaching across. But Deirdre also asks economists to reach inside of ourselves, to look inside of ourselves. And although I have been a critic of some aspects of her work on virtue ethics, bourgeois virtues in particular, I was with Deirdre on the first day that she first started talking about bourgeois virtues at Iowa back in 1993. She got back from a conference. She was arguing against Richard Rorty's, what he was calling his liberal virtues. Anyway, although I have some disagreement with Deirdre about the role of the bourgeois virtues and the value of them in market economies, I think that what she is doing and continues to do with virtue ethics is extremely important for creating a more ethical economics. Benthamite lunacy is a term she uses in The Rhetoric of Economics to describe another term she uses, which is Samuelsonian economics. And the turn back towards the virtues is, of course, a turn toward a style of economics that used to be highly regarded and indeed internationally praised, such as one finds in Adam Smith's The Theory of Moral Sentiments. Deirdre's contributions to economic history, to economic methodology, and to economic ethics are beyond comparison. Deirdre, we thank you. We love you. We're so proud of you. And we look forward to you moving back to Chicago. Thank you so much and hope to see you real soon.
That was wonderful.
Yeah, it was really wonderful. Yeah, Steve was so disappointed he couldn't be here today, but was glad to be able to participate in this way with a video. And now, on to you, Deirdre, to say a few words, if you like. The floor is yours.
Well, I'll say a few words. We in economics argue for specialization, and that's fine. We should all specialize. We should all try to be very good at something, so that we know what being very good at chess or running or science fiction editing or camera operating is. I've always advised students to dig deep in one part of the intellectual world or the political world or the manufacturing world. Know that very well. Make a deep mine of expertise. But the other one sentence description of economics fits very well with the tradition of social market economy. And indeed, as I've argued, the long, long history of markets in human history, right from the caves. I think it's a mistake to think that markets are new, or that exchange is something that comes over this capitalism in the last few centuries. But the economists themselves, and the historians for that matter, should then trade, having dug the deep hole and brought up the valuable coal of specialization. They should trade it. We should aspire to be interdisciplinary, which is conventionally praised by deans and college presidents and so forth. Oh yes, we should be interdisciplinary, but they don't really mean it. They want us to specialize and have countable output of a routine sort, as Steve said. The usual orthodox, I prefer not to use the word mainstream because that makes me into a backwater, and I don't regard that as appropriate. But orthodox economics or orthodox chemistry or orthodox poetry or orthodox this or that, or orthodox politics indeed, is narrow and boring often and wrong. So one should dig deep and read widely. That's the scholarly trick that we don't teach our undergraduates or graduate students or high school students for that matter. There was a tradition in Britain in the 19th century of intellectuals, scholars of the first order, without academic appointments. John Stuart Mill wasn't ever a professor of anything. And these weren't amateurs. They were serious, broad scholars. In the 18th century, Samuel Johnson, overpowering intellect, was not a professor anywhere, not a specialized poet or specialized maker of dictionaries or whatever, but was broad. And this tradition existed in the United States into the 20th century. You have such figures as H.L. Mencken, the great journalist and essayist, and Edmund Wilson, Kenneth Burke. These are my heroes. These were people with breadth and depth at the same time. And I've at least tried. So thank you very much for this marvelous honor.
Yes, thank you so much, Deirdre, for these nice words, these wonderful words. Dig deep and read wisely. So I think that's a good way to do it. So thank you so much for your willingness to receive our award. Thank you for being here, and thank you to all of you. So thank you for the ceremony, and all of you have a good afternoon.
Thank you, dear. Wonderful.